Okay.
Well, it says live on Facebook, so.
It's coming. Nothing is ever 2 minutes to get in there.
Yeah, it says streaming live, so.
All right. Can you see it?
All
right. Yes, here we are. Hello, everyone. This is Sandrine Perradin with our great guest of today, Marcus Walter. Welcome, Marcus Walter. Just a little bit before I talk about you, for the people who don't know who I am, I have been coaching parents, and actually lately, especially men, to go through divorce amicably and peacefully. So now I am opening my group and my friends and everybody who I know to wonderful people like you, Marcus, to tell us about what you do and how you help women to have a better life for themselves, for their kids, in life. I mean, to really thrive and have a great life. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, everyone.
So tell me, today the talk is going to be about blaming. Tell us a little bit more about blaming.
Blaming in regards to divorce, yeah?
Yes. Well, I mean,
or in general.
It can be in general, but yes, in this case, it is
yeah.
Because this is really something that happens quite a bit, actually, the blaming game.
Well, I think our culture in general worldwide is very much blame game at the moment. It's very easy to pass the buck. Oh, it was their fault, it's her fault, it's his fault, it's the kid's fault. But personally, the work I've been doing is looking within, really, and trying to get you to. We all play a part in our lives and what we do, and we can't just keep blaming other people for our things going wrong. So that's just general stuff. But when it comes to divorce, and breaking up from any relationship, it's just very, very easy to look at their faults, to look at their reasons for the breakup or not wanting to be with them anymore. But what people don't remember is once upon a time, you was so in love with this person, you'd do anything for this person. And then suddenly things have changed over time. And now it's not hate. I don't believe it's hate. It's just a lot of anger built up over time that in the end, you just think, I'm not going to take any blame for this. I'm just going to blame them. It's all his fault. It's all her fault. He's an arsehole. She's an arsehole. I'm getting out of this marriage. And it's just easy to blame. But it's not easy, because eventually you'll come back and you'll still be in the pain you was in when you was married, because you've got all that pent up anger, resentment, reasons for them leaving you or you leaving them, and all the blame won't just go away just magically. And then the children pick up on it. The children pick up on, oh, dad's blaming mum, or mum's blaming dad, or my mum left my dad because of, he was a bad person. But in reality, I know it's about time people just really looked at their part in it, because a relationship's 50-50. We both bring 50% each to the relationship, like it or not. And it's not a popular opinion. And I don't, I choose to work with certain people that are open to looking at their part in all this stuff, because they have got a part. So, whether you like it or not, you've got a part in it.
Oh, absolutely. But sometimes it is very difficult to see our part, because we feel that we have done everything we could, and that's why we go into divorce, because like I can't do more. And so what would you recommend to stop the blaming? So for one thing, because I would say there are two types of blaming. There is the one that you receive from the person in front of you who's telling you it's all your fault. So how do you do to not get triggered by it and not get into the blaming game? And the second one is, how do you stop blaming the other person for everything. I mean, what are the steps to really own what is your part and to be able to change it? But first, how do we stop from someone? I mean, what do we do when someone keeps pointing finger at us and saying, I am responsible for everything, this is all my fault and all that, and all you want to do, of course, it's like, that is not true, you did this. And I mean, it's almost like stronger than us, and right, we get back into it and can't stop. So what can we do about that?
Yeah, so I call it tit for tat. Right, you blaming me, I'm going to blame you, and we get triggered and we get angry and we get wound up, and that's what we learn as children. Children are very good at that because our frontal cortex in our brain isn't developed until we're older, about 24, 25. So it automatically goes into tit for tat mode when they're younger. So as adults, we remember that subconsciously, and we go into, well, he said this or she said that, right, I'm going to say this, or I'm going to get revenge. That tit for tat mentality. I mean, the only things you can do really is, it's all about mindset and learning to detach from that person and what they're saying, because it's not true. Probably 90% of it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Training your mind to learn that they are saying this because they're angry, they're upset, just like you. They're going through this divorce as well. There's two of you in this. So it's the biggest advice I try and give people is, one, if you can avoid getting in the ring with them, don't do it. Just don't get in the ring with it anymore. Because if you don't get in the ring, there's no fight.
So how do you do not get into the ring? Because I mean, this is something I have worked, and that was long after my divorce, on how to not be triggered anymore. Because one of the things that I've learned is a trigger, usually you react to their trigger. And once I understood that it had nothing to do with me, that is their thing, that probably come back from long time, then I was more able to be like, interesting, with a curious mind. And I wonder what really made him react like this. But when you're really into it and somebody starts to finger point at you, it is so hard to not react. So do you have any tips on what they can do beside? I mean, one thing that I tell them a lot is, it's going to come, because triggers are usually the same ones over and over and over again. It's nothing new. So, it's going to come. So prepare yourself for it, and know when he's going to say something like this. Just breathe and be like, I'm sorry you feel this way, or something.
That's a great tip right there. Just breathe. But you summed it up. It's coming, right? It's going to happen.
Yeah, that's the thing. But we're never ready. When I talk with women and I'm like, so how is he going to react when you're going to say this or that? And everyone is like, well, I don't know. Because it always comes as a surprise. But in fact, it's like, but you've just spent 15, 20 years with that person, and it's the same thing over every time.
And then that's my biggest thing with this whole situation is, if you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always had. Yes. So one of you has got to change it. One of you has to. They're probably not. If you're enlightened and you want to empower yourself, you have to do something about it and change it. Mm-hmm. So the tips are, take yourself out of the situation. Write a list down what you need to speak about and what you don't need to speak about.
Nice.
Don't get in the ring. If they start arguing, walk away.
Yes. So
as much as it's hard, walk away. And then, there's loads of things you can do. You can write notes to them saying, look, I'm not going to speak to you unless you're calm, and we're not going to get into a row. And you just have to try and change what you've always done, because that's the reason you're getting divorced in the first place, right?
That is usually like that, yes. And in fact, once after my divorce, I realized, and it took me a divorce to realize that a lot of things that I made him wrong for, that I blamed him for, was really my own things. And it's only after my divorce that I realized I could have changed a lot of things then. Now, I'm not saying that I still would not have divorced, but what it taught me is that I had the power to change my reaction and therefore change the outcome.
Exactly. And it is in your power to change the outcome by at least probably 80%. You can't change the other person. You can't second guess what their reaction's going to be. Like you said, how they're going to react. You don't know how anyone's going to react. You just don't.
You kind of do, though, because we are, as a human being, we're, how do we say, we are a habit.
Intuitive. Yeah.
We keep doing the same thing. I mean, now the topic might be different, but usually a person, the way they react, it's usually the same way, you know? So
yeah.
we usually can apprehend on how the other person is going to react. We know, okay, so I should not have a certain talk when he's hungry, for example, because we know that he's losing it, or those kind of things. But so the thing, I mean, so it's one thing to stop your own, you know, being like, okay, I refuse at this point. I'm saying no to participating into the blaming game, which eventually the other person stops, because nobody likes to fight alone. Yeah. However, then how do you deal with when your ex-husband or your ex-wife blames you, but not in your face, but at home with the kids without you being there? What do you do with that? How do you, because now you have no longer control. And once you're divorced, you no longer can tell him, hey, don't say this or don't say that, because you don't have that power anymore. It says, you know, I can't say whatever I want. So how do you protect the children from that?
You can protect them as best you can. But my true belief, and this is my core belief, is the truth will prevail. You can't stop your partner or your ex-partner or whoever, or your ex-husband, the father of your children or the mother of your children, bad-mouthing you. You can't stop them influencing the children. What you can do is give them consistency, give them the truth, and eventually it will prevail. And don't be like that. Don't be the one to start blaming the other one. Because my parents, when they got divorced when I was 9, you know, I'm in my 40s now, and they still blame each other.
It's terrible now. It's terrible because that still destroys your life, because then you still have to...
damaged all our relationships. We're not, we're close, but we're not close. Mm. And it's just a bitterness. It's just, you see it as a child. You see, oh, my mum's really bitter because dad did this, or dad tried to hide money. Dad tried to control you children. Yeah, he did that. Why are you still bitter about it? The only person it's affecting now is you. He's fine.
Yes.
But you're carrying it around. But unless you let go of that, you'll never be free from that person. But you really can't stop someone influencing children. They make up their own mind. They probably already have made up their own mind. But my biggest thing is showing them consistency, showing them love and affection, being 100% truthful, no matter what it is, because it's easy to deal with the truth than the lie. And one day you find out, you know, your dad's lied or your mum's lied. It will always come and bite you on the bum if you do that stuff. And they'll grow up and they'll know one's played one off against each other. But it goes back to simply, for me, once upon a time, you two were close. You two had children together. You two loved that moment. And it's going back to being adult, because we've got that inner child in us that goes straight back to, I'm going to blame you. I'm going to blame you. And it's complete nonsense. And it's using, I call it the I over the E instead of the E over the I, because intelligence over emotions is far better than emotions over intelligence. If you run on emotions, you're in trouble.
So
you've got to start using intelligence and change the situation yourself. And that's what your whole group's about, surely, empowering yourself to take control. It's your life. It's your children. You've got no control when you split up with someone, as much as people love it, and they use the children a lot to play one off against each other, which is, I find, just completely horrendous. There's so many parents that are alienated out there because of it.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, just be yourself, be authentic, be an example. Don't get into bad mouthing, playing dad off against the kids,
Yeah.
you know, all that kind of stuff.
The one thing that I have done as well is, while you have no power over what your ex-spouse is saying to the children, you still can help the kids dealing with it. If, for example, they come home and said, "Hey, mom, you know, daddy said something mean about you," you know. So what I have found is that first, to not be upset about it, because then the children see it upsets you, and then they think it is their fault that you're upset, or that makes you sad, and then they start to either not talk to you anymore because they don't want you to be sad, or they start to lie to you because they don't want you to be sad. So the thing that I have found it to be very useful is actually also help the children to deal with the situation, and said, "Oh, really? He said that. So what did you think of it?" You know,
Yeah.
and then you can give them the tools to then managing it, because of course you as the ex-wife, you not really have any role, I mean, any power to tell him what not to do, but the kids have a big power still, because the odds are is the dad is going to do that again. And so once the kids can be like, "Hey, daddy, you know, when you say that about mom, that really makes me feel sad," or I don't really like it when you talk about mom this way. And it has so much more impact. And the dad or the mother, I mean, you know, it's not just one way, but can actually hear it better, and hopefully that will stop them. But what I have found, it also gives tools to the kids to protect themselves, not just in that situation, but then in all situation in life, because now they have a voice. It's about telling them, if you don't like something, you say it.
Absolutely. I totally believe in giving children a voice. Children are more sensible than adults in a lot of ways.
Yes.
They're honest. They see it from a very different angle. And like you said it very well, actually. The influence that you will have, setting the example of how to deal with this in case it happens to them one day. And if mum's been calm and collective and not putting dad down, if they get, you know, into a relationship breakup, they'll know how to deal with it, because you're setting the example, right, as a parent.
Yeah, you're the
And we
role.
don't own children, believe it or not. We don't own human beings. We have children, but we must let them grow and find their own way.
Yes, but they
The
always
more you
watch.
rein a child in, the more they're gonna go off and do their own thing.
Yes, yeah. So
You'll have a far closer relationship with the children if you just set the example, and the right example. Let the other person get on with it, because the only person it's going to affect otherwise is you and the kids.
yeah. So I was talking with a mom lately, and she was having a very difficult situation, and maybe you can give us your input on how to handle that. She used to have a very good relationship with her kids, but little and little, the children have been poisoned by their dad. And then the children who are young, I mean, you know, 10 years old and 14 years old, they believe what their dad was saying, and just refuse to see their mom.
Okay.
What would you say, how to handle that? What to do?
It's a very tricky one with I mean, it depends how old are the children, do you know?
10 and 14.
Okay. So they're an age where she could write them letters.
Yes.
Authentic, from the heart stuff.
Yeah.
Um I didn't see my daughter for about a year due to similar things, being alienated, being
I'm
told
sorry.
all sorts of horrendous stuff that wasn't true. And it was a journey for me. I went through, you know, the whole grieving process, the 5 stages of grief.
Mm-hmm.
I went through anger. I went through, you know, wanting to get revenge, and I didn't do any of that, but because I learned how to deal with it, but I still felt it. It's important to acknowledge feelings, but it's important to not react on those feelings. So my advice would be purely, and it sounds really harsh, but do what you've got to do. You've got a life to live as well. You can try things like write to the child, keep in contact with the child, be authentic with the child, tell them the truth. But at the same time, if they don't want to see you, you can't force children to see you. And it's coming to, and it makes me really sad that this has to even have to happen. But it's coming to an acceptance where one day that child will know the truth. They're making their own decisions. And they'll have to live with the consequences as well. They're at an age where they know right from wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They are being poisoned by the sound of it, and there's nothing she can do about that. Bar, you know, kidnap the father or whatever. But it's a real challenging situation, and it's not a nice situation to be in. But the best advice is it's a process, and it's not an overnight process. It's purely accepting that actually this is happening right now. It might not happen in another 3 months, 6 months, year. Things might improve. But it's important not to get into that game, what we said about earlier, the tit for tat. Don't start poisoning him. Does she have any sort of contact with him at all?
She does now with one of them, but it's very difficult. And she's afraid that her daughter will not talk to her at all either. And she just, she
I
wanted to
think the
go
first,
to lawyers, but I have no idea what the lawyer can do if it is the child that decide, especially at that age, at 14 years old, if the child decide that he does not want to spend any time with you.
it's very difficult for children of that age because, I mean, my daughter was 13. She told the court she loves both parents. She doesn't want to upset either parent.
Yeah.
And that's true for my studies. When I did my studies, children don't want any of this. They don't want to be stuck in the middle at all. It's very easy for them to side, or for us to perceive they're taking a side. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course.
Of one person. Or why aren't they talking to me? Or why aren't they, you know? I guarantee you inside they don't want that. But they're doing it for their own protection. They're just having a simple life with one of the parents. Whether that's right or wrong, whether that's being influenced by the person or being poisoned by the person, that's where they feel their life isn't there, their comfort zone is at the moment. But things can change. So the first advice I would give is 100% write a letter to both children.
Yeah.
Like a real long one. Good old-fashioned letter. Can't beat them.
Yeah.
Because what that does is it gets it out of your system, and it also reassures them that mum loves me, dad loves me, whatever. And they'll always have it,
That's
probably.
the thing. Yeah. About letters, what I love for one thing is that they end until the end, rather than when you have a talk, you usually already caught up into what you're going to answer and you no longer listen. And the letter, you really have it with you forever. And I still have a letter from my father who is now passed away when I was 18 years old. And I cherish this letter because he tells me beautiful things in it. And while maybe at the time I was not really ready to hear it or to understand it, it's with me always. And And so thank you so much. So Marcus, tell us a little bit, who do you work with? How do you work with people to go through all that? Because I suppose you don't just talk about blaming, but tell us a little more what to do.
Well, I work with both couples that are thinking about getting divorced,
Okay.
as well as couples that are out of coming in or in divorce or coming out of divorce. So I do a lot of kind of practical work. I'm very solution focused rather than let's not talk about the past, let's not talk about the games, let's draw a line under all that. You've been doing that for the last however long.
It didn't work. So
I'm here to change that and hopefully make you see a different take on it from a different set of eyes or ears or whatever. So I do retreats. We take couples away, intensified, like 5-day to 2-week retreats. You know, we've had couples that on the verge of divorce coming back and renewing their vows because they realised what they were doing. They was in a game.
Yeah.
And they forgot the real reason why they met. One of the first tasks I do is get them to write down with other couples what was the reason you first fell in love with this person, or reasons, and they have to read it out. And normally they go, "Wow, you know what? I forgot completely about that."
Yes.
And it's sad, you know, that the way that the world is, where divorce rates are going up. But I understand there's certain situations where it can't be helped at all. You know, they've got the domestic violence side of things, you've got the abuse side of things, and that's completely different kettle of fish. But if it's more, you're in a rat race and you're, you know, just niggling at each other and you're arguing with each other, and that can easily be solved because you probably don't see that you're actually just in a game with each other, and you're both frustrated. So I do a lot of that. I do a lot of, you know, the Terror 18 kind of how to deal with that in families, because that can be a real strain on families.
So how do couples, especially after divorce, do come together? What if they don't, because a lot of couples, once they divorce, you know, they really don't want to have anything to do with each other anymore. So how would you recommend that they come together? I mean, what do you need to say to your ex-spouse to make her understand that it would be best for everybody to do that?
Best for everyone to do what? Come together?
The divorced couple to come back together for a retreat, or to learn to, because once you have children, divorced or not divorced, you know, you are a team no matter what. And a lot of them don't know how to be anymore. Already they didn't know how to be as married, but now it's even worse because there is so much animosity and blaming and anger and all that. So
okay.
How can they now work together?
It's about the number one with couples that come on retreats that are getting divorced is communication and letting go of the blame. Sorry, my camera's gone. So it's letting go of the blame, and it's communication is key. Communication is everything, and we teach going back to basics, going back to the basic. How you communicated in the start. How did you communicate?
Yes.
Can we draw a line under this hate and animosity and blame? And can we move on with a different way of communicating? Because it will be a different communicating. How can we take us out of this and put the children first?
Yeah.
That's what the basics, what we do really.
Very true.
It's all about being child focused instead of you focused, because all that's gone. It's dealt with. Let it go.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of letting go stuff. We do the letter writing on the retreats.
Yeah.
Write a letter for closure. Write a letter to say, you know what, I had some great years with you, but it's come to an end, and let's draw a line under it and focus on the children.
Yes, always, if we can, really always focusing on the children, because at the end, as parents, we know we can never be happy if the kids are not okay. So by focusing on the kids, we remove ourselves from it, and can get along. So we are getting toward the end, Marcus. So tell us, what is the best way to learn more about you and get in touch with you?
Well, I guess if you drop my email in the Facebook group,
yes.
I'm sure we'll do some more stuff together, Sandrine. It's been a pleasure to talk to you guys, and yeah, just you've got the chance to be empowered to change your life. That's as simple as that. But yeah, contact me via email is the best way.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you very much, Marcus.
Pleasure.
That was a pleasure having you. And everyone, thank you so much for joining us. If you are live, wonderful. Otherwise, on replay. And just know that you do have a power on the situation you are in. Even if sometimes you feel that it's all the other person. It's, I understand, I mean, we all understand that it's not because you don't want to see it. It is just sometimes we do so much that we don't see what else we can do. But with the right support, people can show you and take you to the different outcome that will get you the life that you want to have for yourself and for your kids. So thank you very much.
Pleasure.
That's the end for today. For everybody else, I'm going to be back tomorrow, and I will send another little note on to say what we're going to be talking about. So thank you very much. If you need to get in touch with Marcus, I'm going to write his contact information in the comments. And you always have access to me as well if you have any questions. There is also my book, A Family No Matter What, from Sandrine Perradin, that takes you through divorce, pretty much on how to create a beautiful life for you and your family with divorce. It's really about finding happiness. So again, thank you very much. I wish you a happy Tuesday, and hope everything is good everywhere. I mean, with everything's going on. So love to you all. Bye, you guys.
Bye.